Hello guys, I'm back from another video and I'm really sorry that I didn't really make a video last time because at the time I was pretty much busy with the Tiatihan, which by the way was okay-ish. I mean, I don't really celebrate it all that much because too much noise and it kind of hurts my ears. Actually, it's a bit hypocritical. I mean, I always use my freaking headphones, but still, I just get. But either way, so hello guys, I am back from another video today to talk about what if Deku was in high school DxD. So in the last video, we talked about how after finally using his new secret gear, aka Jakul, he would start fighting against Kokobeel, where the fight was pretty much not really a fight. It's more like a bloodbath, where Izuku would start using several of his attacks. Like, for example, Kazakli Bay and also some other shit. And after causing Kokobeel to fall to the ground and causing him to basically be, to be easily beaten, Kokobeel would basically start to spout out how he basically, is strong and things of that sort, even though in this situation it seems like the opposite. So, Izuku would start, beating him down once again, and after doing so, he would be, somewhat tired, as he would start, spilling out, some certain things, like, for example, why did God let the Holy Sword Project even allow this, or at least even allow, like, the, tragedies, like, for example, the Holy Sword Project and many of that sort. And after saying that, he would decide to basically reveal something that even the supernatural world would not understand, or should I say, should not have known. In this case, God is dead, as it causes, the church members, aka, Zenobia, Irina, and also, Aisha to start crying, knowing that, their life's purpose is basically meaningless because God is freaking dead. And because of that, Izuku decides to just end it and basically decapitates him. And after doing so, and also after a bit of talking with each other, Kokobeel would basically would be defeated. But somebody would basically arrive, aka our favorite little demon, aka sort of my also favorite demon in mythology, and also a demon that I also created, not really created, but more like in a character that I made in my storage, but I didn't really draw him yet, aka Azazel, otherwise known as the leader of the Grimoire, aka the Fallen Angel. And after introducing himself and also everybody getting a little bit suspicious because of him. I mean, ever since the recent activities of the Fallen Angels, well, it would cause everybody to just now start fearing the Fallen Angels, or in this case, start hating them. But, Azazel would obviously, tell them that he was not the one who ordered him. It's more like he was a rogue Fallen Angel, and after saying that, they would let their guard down for now. And after a bit of talking and also apologizing, he would start to leave, but not before that, a person would arrive, aka a woman by the name of Valley, aka the this generation's, wait for a second, sorry about that, as this woman by the name of Valley, aka this generation's, White Dragon Empress, well, she would basically introduce herself as she would start smack talking against Issei, as after a bit of smack talking, she would start looking towards Izuku, as she would decide to, provoke her, aka Issei, as she would start, flirting with him, as after a while, it would cause, a bit of anger in a certain girl, aka our lovely little, our lovely little Sona, as it would cause her to basically tell her that they're gonna be married, as after saying that, she would decide to just kiss him right out, instantly kiss him. As after doing so, it caused, Sona to become super angry, including the others. Like, for example, surprisingly Aisha, and also, many others, like, for example, Issei to, Kiba, surprisingly, which he's also confused about why am I liking him for some odd reason. And so, after doing so, they would basically leave and never to be seen again. Sorry about that, my throat. Anyway, continuing on. After doing so, everybody would start leaving. After that, we currently see, a few, minutes later, as we currently see Izuku, as you would ask, well, Sora to basically turn him into a member of, you know, of this, of her, peerage, and after doing so, he would gain 2 pawn pieces, and becoming a new member of Sona's, peerage. And after that, we go to a different perspective. Not really perspective, but more like, a different person, where we currently see, wait for a second, sorry about that, where we would see, a completely, like, saddened, well, not really saddened, but more like both saddened. As in both, I mean 2 people. As in, both, what is their name? Yeah, Zenobia and Aisha. As, not Aisha, I meant Zenobia and Irina. As Irina is currently, pretty much sad, knowing that they basically know that God is dead, their life's purpose. As after, a bit of talking, and also seeing Izuku would tell, Zenobia that, apparently one of the pieces that, well, what is her name? Yeah, Riaz has, well, she doesn't really have, a member for the rook piece, or at least the second rook piece. So, after saying that, she would decide to join, Iris, um, wait for a second, God, Riaz's peerage, I meant. And so, she would start to leave. As for, Irina would basically ask him if she can join his peerage, or in this case, well, you know, her peerage, aka, Sona's peerage, which Izuku would basically ask Sona if she can. And after accepting this, even though she doesn't like it all that much because she thinks that she's going to steal him away, she would decide to do so, and so she would become a new member of Sona's peerage. And so that is where we basically ended off the episode. Sort of. Wait for a second, my notes. Where we go back to, a few minutes ago. During, last episode. As in, the start of, the invasion of, Kokobeel. Where we saw both, Katase and also, what's her name again? The pink-haired Katase and the brown-haired, Moriyama. And they were currently at the Kendo Club as you would start, seeing or at least watching the fight between him and the Fallen Angels, including the other, members of the Orc and also the Student Council. Which they were just, confused, thinking, what the hell is going on? Are they, dreaming? As, after a while fighting, they would see Izuku basically taking on his brand new form, aka his pseudo-balance breaker, I guess you could say. It's more like, I guess you could say it's kind of like a balance breaker, sort of. But in actuality, it's more like it's just its regular form. Yeah, that's apparently supposed to be his regular form, aka, his Sacred Gears form. And, after a bit of fighting and showing off his brand new techniques, including, Kazakli Bay, both of them would start thinking in their minds, what the hell was going on? And would decide, at least mentally decide, that they should probably tell, Izuku about this. And so we basically left off the episode right off there. So yeah, let us talk about what happens next, ladies and gents. And also, before we actually start this episode, yeah, I know it's gonna be pretty long, seriously, but either way, I also need some help. I've been looking for ideas for a what if, a what if Bell series for a while now, but the current ideas that I had and also the past ideas are probably things that I've basically gone over and decided, nah, no thank you. So I need some help with that, guys. But if you want, just another Izuku what if, sure, why not? But still, I still have a bit of a theme here. Basically, 2 what ifs about Deku and, or Izuku, and 2 what ifs, or at least 1 what if for Bell. So yeah, I want all of you guys to make or at least give me some ideas for what if about Bell. So yeah, just make it not really complicated, for example, Bloodborne. I mean, I do love Bloodborne, but I'm not really into the lore of Bloodborne. I mean, I love the aesthetic, but there's no way I'm not doing that, no. And if you're asking, I'm maybe going to, maybe make a what if about, Elden Ring, maybe, but it's still depending on me. like still pretty much depending on me. But either way, so yeah, let's go on with the actual episode, shall we, ladies and gents? So we currently see Izuku waking up pretty bright and early as he would start, doing his normal routine, basically taking a bath, brushing his teeth. As after doing so, he would start, going towards, towards, downstairs. As you would see, three of his like roommates, aka, Millet, Calwinner, and also Rainer, basically cooking up, dinner. Not really dinner, I meant, breakfast, I meant. God dang it, why do I keep confusing them? Shiz. But either way, after, eating, breakfast, he would say goodbye to them as he would start leaving to go to school. As while leaving, he would start, sense a bit of like, well, something weird is gonna happen. Or something a bit, let's just say chaotic, to say the least, is gonna happen today. And oh boy, that sense is right. So yeah, as after arriving at, the gate, he would start, hearing a few people basically talking, saying, "Hey, have you heard? Apparently just a new girl," said one of them. As one of them would say this. "Yeah, I heard. Apparently she's kind of beautiful, and apparently they're from Italy." Or at least one of them said one of the male students. As one of the girls would say this. "I hope she doesn't get corrupted by Issei," she would say. As one of them would say this. "Just hope she doesn't become a rival to Izuku-kun's, love," said one of them. As after hearing that, he would say, "Oh, this is certainly going to be interesting," he would say to himself. As after saying that, he would start, arriving at his class where he would see, a few of his, classmates, like for example Kaneko and, many others. As after sitting down, he would see, the teacher basically writing up some names. As the teacher would say this. So, your new classmates are going to be coming here soon, so please don't worry about that." But before she, could say anything else, everybody would start, hearing the sounds of, like, the door opening, as they would see two people, as Izuku would recognize them, as both Irina and Zenobia. As, after seeing them, he would say this. "Wait, how did I not hear this?" he would say, as Zenobia would say this. "Hello there. My name is Zenobia Corda, and this is my friend, and also the childhood friend of my classmate over there," she would say. As after saying that, everybody would start looking at, the direction of where she's pointing, as it was pointing towards Izuku, as everybody would start looking at him, as he would say, "Huh?" All of them would say, as Irina would say this. The name's, Irina Shidao. It's nice to finally meet you all," she would say, as she would say this. "Oh, hi Izuku," she would say, as after saying that, everybody would start looking at him. More specifically, the guys, as they were saying, "Great, now you have a harem," like everybody would start saying to themselves. But, most of them, specifically the girls, would say, "Who dares try and disturb our, fun time with Izuku-kun," everybody would just say. Or at least, the girls. Oh no! As currently nearby, we also see, Katase and Murayama basically looking at Izuku. Weirdly. As Izuku can obviously sense it. Even though it feels a bit weird, but he can obviously sense something is gonna happen. Something concerning, to say the least, he would say to himself. As after saying that, he would start looking towards the, others. More specifically, his childhood best friend and also Zenobia. As Izuku would say this. "Well, that explains why they're not there during breakfast," he would say to himself. But he would just shake it off as, the teachers would say this. Yes, you're going to be sitting right next to, Izuku over there." As after saying that, there was like, two seats that were basically like empty. As Izuku would say this. "Oh, that would explain why, my two other classmates are currently sitting somewhere else," he would say. As after saying that, both, both Irina and also Zenobia would start going towards Izuku's seat as, as they would sit down right next to him, As currently the girls are basically like, becoming a little bit angry, like instantly angry, asking, why does God basically hate us, all of them would say. As after hearing that, both of the girls would be, aka, Zenobia and, Irina would start, feeling their heads a bit hurting, or at least getting a little bit of headaches, including, Kaneko over there, which obviously they are devils, so they can't really, say the word of God or anything of that sort, or any religious thing. But for some odd reason, Izuku was not affected. Because remember, because he literally consumed several DNA of several high-class, fallen angels and other types of shit like that. And so he's basically immune to that. So basically, he's like the devil, or at least a devil, but without the drawbacks. Yeah, that definitely doesn't sound concerning at all. Wait for a sec. And so, class would start to begin. Or at least, class would start, starts to begin, or whatever. Or, class would start, or whatever at this point. Anyway, continuing on. As class would begin, everybody would just listen to the teacher as he would basically tell everybody to start going towards their start, reading their textbooks. And so, after a while, the teacher would basically end the, end the class, and so everybody would start leaving. But before they can actually leave, they would hear, "What?" All of them would hear, as they would hear from the other classroom, as everybody was a bit surprised, including, Irina and also Zenobia. As after hearing that, they would, the other students would also, look towards the, that, area, including some other students from other, other years, like for example, third years. As after looking, they would see Kiba? Well, or at least that's supposed to be Kiba. Kiba seems to be wearing, instead of like his usual, boy's uniform, instead she's wearing, a girl's uniform, in fact. As everybody would see her, let's just see gigantic ass bazongas. the big old balangadoos. As she would say this. "Oh, hey Izuku," she would say, as everybody would start looking towards the direction of, where this Izuku person is, as everybody would start looking at Izuku. As Izuku would say this. "Wait, Kiba, why are you wearing that?" he would say. As she would say this. "Well, I decided to, reveal to everybody that I'm a girl," she would say. As everybody, after hearing that, they would say, "Wait, she's a reverse trap?" all of them would say. As after hearing that, one of them specifically, Irina, would say, "Wait, she was a girl," she would say. As he would say this. "Yeah, a bit surprising," he would say. As one of them would say this. "Well, not really. I mean, you did, saw me, well, saw me in my true form," she would say. As after hearing that, everybody would start looking towards Izuku as he would say this. "Well, it was an accident," he would say, as she would say this. "But still," she would say, as she would start walking towards him, as she would say this. "Well, you do need to, take responsibility," she would say. As after saying that, she would start, grabbing onto Izuku's hand as they would start leaving. As Izuku would say this. "Wait, what are you doing?" he would say. As she would say this. "Well, we are going to be in the same class, so..." As Izuku would say this. Wait, he would say. As after that, he would basically disappear. As everybody would say this. Is Kiba... does Kiba like him?" all of them would say to themselves, as the rest of the girls are pretty much wailing, knowing that, their crush was actually a girl. Oh boy. While some others, aka, wait for a second, god dang it. Like, all of them would start saying start saying in their minds, but a certain group, aka, Izuku's fan group, which apparently he does have, would start, would start saying to themselves, "We must destroy Kiba." All of them would say in unison. All of them. Oh god. As we go back to Izuku, and also, Kiba. As currently Izuku was basically, being dragged by her, as he would say this. Wait, let me just, as she would say this. "Don't worry, besides, we're gonna be late," she would say. As he would say this. "But still, just let me," as before he can, they would finally arrive at your classroom, as you would say this. "Maybe next time, try not to do that," he would say, as she would say this. Anyway, so, as after saying that, they would start, opening the door of the class, as everybody is, just talking. As after opening the door, everybody would just look over and would see Kiba wearing, the girl's uniform. As every single girl would just say, "What the fuck?" Like, all of them would just say in unison, as Izuku would just be there, just like, not showing his face to anybody because his face is currently red. As, currently we also see Kiba basically holding onto his hand. Yeah, even though Izuku, is pretty much, pretty much a badass, he's still pretty much, not immune to girls. Yeah, and if you're asking one commenter who said that Izuku is that you think that Izuku is supposed to be badass and a little bit of the flirty type, no, unfortunately no. Unfortunately, no. I'm still making him a little bit of a badass, but still pretty much embarrassed if a girl basically tries to, graze him, to say the least. But either way, as everybody is looking at Kiba wearing a dress and, seeing her basically like holding onto Yuzuki's hand, all of the girls instantly start to think, wait, is Kiba gay? All of them would say to themselves, as, the teacher would say this. Ah, you're finally here, Kiba, he would say. She would say, as she would say this. Ah, hello teacher, she would say, as she would say this. Now, time for your reintroduction, she would say. As after saying that, everybody would, learn that Kiba is actually a girl. And the reason why she pretended is because they wanted, how do I say this? Yeah, basically allow, male students to basically, feel a little bit welcomed, even though that was basically a bad idea, and everybody, and I mean everybody, including the boys, would basically hate him, because, it's stealing the girls, but after learning that he was a guy, well, the guys would have the opposite effect. Actually, it would be the opposite, like, the girls would start hating her, because of, stealing Izuku away, while the guys would instantly love her. Yeah, how ironic. Not erotic, I meant ironic, I meant. And after saying that, Kizuku would basically sit right next to Kiba, as it was basically, home economics class, or at least I think that's the name. We don't really have that class in, my school, at all, because, because we basically sort of have the type of class, in this case, a class known as, FBS, or, my strand, because that's where I basically, decided to go to. And the reason why is because, I love making food, I want to be, a restaurant owner, mostly because I want money, and I'm also pretty good at, thinking up of some, flavor ideas, but either way, let's continue on with the episode. As everybody was told to basically make, some omelets, and also, some other type of food item, mostly savory foods. As after being told this, Izuku would start, getting ready to cook. And so Izuku decides to make, his favorite dish, aka pork kantatsu, I meant. And after saying that, he would start looking towards Kiba, as Izuku would ask her to make the rice while he makes the other dishes. Like, for example, the actual pork kantatsu, and also the sauce for it. And so, after being told this, she would decide to do so. And so, both of them would start working completely in sync, in fact. They seem to be, almost like, built to be with each other. Not in that way, as in, basically built to basically work together. As everybody would start looking at, Izuku and also, Kiba, as everybody would start to think, is this some bullshit? All of them would say to themselves, as while Izuku is basically cooking the kantatsu itself. As for, Kiba, she would start waiting for the rice to finish cooking. And so, after doing so, they would basically start putting up some presentation. As Izuku would cut up the kantatsu, and so it would be finished. And so, after bringing it to the teacher and trying it out, the teacher would say that they have a pretty high grade, as both of them would basically celebrate. And so, the teacher would ask them to basically finish up the meal by themselves. I mean, because they basically made it, they're gonna be making it their, lunch for now. And so, both of them would start eating it, and they're pretty much happy with the result. While the others were instantly saying to themselves, yeah, I really want to be with Kiba / Izuku-kun at this point, all of them would say to themselves. As after that, everybody would basically start to leave, as it was finally lunch. So, as everybody is basically leaving, Izuku would decide to basically sit in the lunch table nearby. As while he was eating lunch, he would be approached by Kiba, as everybody is currently now, finally learned that Kiba is actually a girl, as every single girl is now targeting her. As in, not targeting her because, oh yeah, they're lesbian. No, they absolutely hate her now. Because they're thinking, yeah, they're basically going to steal Izuku-kun away. Like all of them would say, as they're basically planning to try and, basically stop this madness. Or at least that's what they think. As we also see, well, a, not really, well, actually, yeah. Pretty much angry as, Issei, as she's currently watching all of this. As she would say, that Kiba is a girl, she would say. As, one of them would say this. Well, that's quite surprising, she would say. Specifically, well, what is her name? Just said, Kaneko. As, one of them would say this. Wait, how did you didn't know? Like, she would say, specifically, not Kiba, I meant, specifically, Issei, as one of them would say this, specifically, Ria's. Well, the reason why we didn't tell her, or any of you, is because, well, at the time, we wanted to keep that secret, she would say. As after saying that, she would say this. But still, I mean, as she would start looking towards Izuku, as Izuku seems to be enjoying her company, as she would say this. And she's obviously taking her away from me, she would say, as she would start biting on her nail. As currently nearby as well, the student council, specifically, well, our lovely little Soda is currently, having, anger building up inside of her. As, we currently also see, Saji trying to calm her down, saying, hey, President, please calm down, he would say, as she would say this. Oh yes, I am calm, she would say, while also basically breaking her chopsticks. Oh god, and the menacing aura nearby would cause several of the people there to basically move, away from her. As, we also see, a somewhat angry, Momo, which apparently that's her name, and if you're asking, no, that's not Momo from My Hero Academia, no, that's just the Momo, that's the Momo from, DxD, aka Momo, what is her last name? Momo Hanakai, as she's currently, pretty much not really mad, but more like, just like a bit jealous. As she would start saying to herself, is it wrong to basically, use her, is it wrong to basically, grab one of, Kiva's swords and basically ram it up her stomach or something? She would start saying to herself, as after, a while of basically, eating, after eating, or at least, Sona, after eating, she would basically stand up and would start walking towards Izuku's table. As everybody would notice her basically doing so, as it would cause everybody to start thinking, oh god. All of them would start, thinking to themselves, well, Izuku's fucked, all of them would say, as we currently see the guys going boy, man. All of them would start saying to themselves, good luck, buddy. All of them would say, even though inside they would say, yes, finally, no more lovey-dovey shit. As we currently see, a certain, a certain little, Citri, aka, Sona basically having her eyes basically covered by, shadow. As well, Izuku's basically, eating with, a pretty much happy ass, Kiba, as Kiba's basically feeding him some of her food. Well, Izuku's forced to endure it. He would start thinking to himself, God, why do I feel like something bad is gonna happen? And oh boy, those predictions were right! So, as after a while of doing so, Izuku would start feeling a menacing aura, as he would say, oh god, he would say, as he would slowly turn his head and would see, well, the face of death herself. As we currently see a really angry ass, Sona, as she would say this. So, mind telling me what are you two doing, she would say, as, Kiba would see this. Oh, nothing, she would say, as her tone would seem to be a little bit, would seem to be a little bit annoyed than anything else, as she would say this. Oh, mind telling me why are you with Izuku, she would say, as she would say this. Well, it's not obvious, I'm just accompanying him during lunch, she would say. As, her eyes would start becoming a little bit, darker. Just imagine these eyes. Sorry about that. I just hope my my, recording is not going to be broken by that stupid, thing, right? I just hope, at least, because I got that notification again. And if you don't know what I mean, well, it's a notification where I basically get that, how do I say this? It's basically the recording would say, oh, if you use this app, the recording would basically start to, start to sound horrible. So I'm hoping it's not gonna happen, again. So yeah, just imagine, that face of that certain, of that certain ship. I can't remember the actual ship's name from Azure Lane, but she's from, yeah, from Soccer Empire, the one that almost resembled Bird. And if you don't know what I mean, well, wait for a second. Just imagine just imagine those eyes that don't really have any lights in them, and it's basically shadowed, and she would have that smile, not really smile, but more that unmoving mouth, basically that smile that basically has no emotion on it. As she would say this, oh, then please get out of please get out of where Izuku is, she would say. As she would say this, specifically, Kiba. Oh, I'm just here to basically accompany him. Nothing more, nothing less, she would say. As both of them would start to have a stare off, as it would cause everybody to basically move out of the way. As, Rios would say this, I think it's better for us to basically leave, she would say. As, we currently see, Issei a bit angry, and also Zenobia a bit angry as well, seeing the both of them fighting over him. Mostly because they want to protect Izuku. Mostly for Issei's sake, because she just wants to, add him to her soon-to-be harem, but it's probably going to be the opposite. Because Issei is going to be in our, or at least in, Izuku's harem instead. The complete opposite. So, as after a bit of a stare down, she would say this. Specifically, a certain, girl, aka, Sona, as she would say this. Well then, if you don't mind me, she would say, as she would grab onto Izuku's arm. As, Kiba would say this. Oh, no, you don't, she would say. As she would basically grab onto Izuku's arm. As he would start, doing tug-of-war with Izuku's arms, as he would say, girl, stop, he would say. As one of them would say this. Oh, no, we're not letting go, she would say. As she would say this. Specifically Kiba. Yeah, me neither, she would say. As both of them would start glaring at each other. As everybody would start to think, are we in a soap opera? One of them would say. As, Izuku would say this, somebody help me, he would say. As after saying that, a teacher would basically arrive, as he would basically tell the both of them to basically stop. But during, during their little scolding, which is a bit surprising because, most of the time, what is her name again? Because most of the time, her, aka, Sona is mostly doing the scolding. As, she would say this. Well, because she was basically touching my husband, she would say. Or at least soon-to-be husband. As after hearing that, oh boy, everybody would start becoming silent. As the teacher would slowly just look at her, as she would say, what do you mean by husband? She would say, as she would say this. Well, you see, my parents, told me that I'm going to, that Izuku is going to be my husband. After, high school, she would say, or at least after college, she would say. As after hearing that, everybody would slowly, become, darkened. Mostly the girls, while the other guys just nearby would say, finally, all of them would just say. I mean, most of them do like the president, but because of her, her appearance and also the way she acts, well, it's a complete turn-off to them. But thankfully, Izuku's finally gonna get laid. So yeah, while the other girls nearby are basically having that angry stare. And so the cafeteria would basically, go up and figuratively, in flames. As, some of the girls would start, barking, saying, "What the fuck is that supposed to mean?" All of them would say, as some of the Kendo girls would become a little bit angry, knowing that, that Izuku is going to be forced to marry, Sona, which they think that they would be, the better option. Oh boy, that's definitely not the good thing. So, yeah. So, after that, we go back to Izuku as Izuku would slowly sneak out and would basically run away. Basically getting outside, as you would say this. Finally, some peace and quiet, he would say. As after saying that, he would decide to, pick up his chopsticks and would start continuing eating his lunch. But while he was eating lunch, he would get approached by somebody, as this somebody seems to be a girl. As one of them would say this. "Hey, Izuku," she would say, as Izuku would recognize that voice. As he would look over and would see Katase. As, wait for a second, as he would see the pink cat girl, which I'm just gonna be calling it pink cat, or at least girls that basically have like pink hair. As he would say this. "Oh, hey Katase," he would say. As he would look over and would see right beside her was Murayama. As she would say this. "So, Izuku, can we talk, there?" she would say. As she would point towards, a nearby area. As he would say this. Sure," he would say with a suspicious tone. As after saying that, they would start moving towards a different area, which seemed to be the back of of the gym. As he would say this. "So, what do you want to talk about, guys?" he would say. As Wada would say this, specifically, Murayama. "Well, it's about, yesterday," she would say. As he would say this. "Yesterday? What do you mean by that?" he would say. "I mean, it was a weekend," he would say. As she would say this. "Well, you see, last night we saw you find this weird dark-haired man with pale skin, with 10 wings, and you basically had those wings as well. Or at least, 20 wings, or at least I think so," she would say. "But your wings were like, fading into black and white." As after hearing that, Izuku's eyes would widen as he would say, "What do you mean by that? Are you perhaps crazy?" he would say. As one of them would say this. "Don't avoid our question," she would say. As one of them would say this. Specifically Katase. "Yeah, and we also saw Ria-sama over there. We saw her with, those similar wings, but except, she only had one pair of wings. And she seems to have, almost like demon-like wings," she would say. As Izuku would start to sweat bullets, as he would say this. Are you perhaps, smoking something?" he would say. As she would say this. "No, we don't do drugs, but, but please don't avoid our questions. We just want to ask for the answers for them," she would say. As he would say this. You're obviously dreaming," he would say. As one of them would say this. "Stop lying," she would say, specifically Katase. As Murayama would say this. "Yeah, we promise we won't tell anybody about this. Just tell us the truth," she would say. As after saying that, Izuku would decide to sigh. As he would say this. "Fine, but I'll tell you later, okay?" As after saying that, Izuku would start leaving. As Katase would say this. "Hey Izuku," she would say. As Izuku would say this. Yeah," he would say. As she would say this. "Can we talk, later? Maybe like in the Kendo Club," she would say. As he would say this. "Fine," he would say. As after saying that, Izuku would start leaving. So, class goes by as it was pretty much, about like, in the afternoon. As after that, the class is over. As Izuku would start leaving to go to, to the Kendo Club. As while he was leaving, he would notice, Kaneko. As he would say this. "Oh, hey Kaneko," he would say. As she would say this. "Oh, hi," she would say. As he would say this. "Well, that was pretty much a crazy surprise," he would say. As she would say this. "Oh, you mean Kiba being a girl?" "Yeah, it was also a pretty much surprised, she would say. As he would say this. Yeah, you're telling me. I mean, and why did she act that way towards me, he would say. As she would say this. Are you that dense, she would say. As he would say this. Huh? He would say. As she would say this. Anyway, just bye, she would say. And also, take care, she would say. As he would say this. Oh, bye then, he would say. As after saying that, he would start leaving. But Kaneko would start to blush a little bit, as she would say this. Why am I starting to blush, she would say. As after saying that, we go back to Izuku. As Izuku is basically, going towards, towards where, Katase and also Murayama had told him to go. As after arriving there, he would notice Katase and Murayama basically there sitting on some nearby, boxes. As Izuku would say this. So, about, last night, he would say. As Katase would say this. Yeah. Can you please tell us what the heck were those things, she would say. As he would say this. Well, let me, he would just sigh as he would say this. Alright, fine, but please don't tell anybody. I mean, actually, nobody will actually believe you, to say the least, but still, just don't tell anybody, okay? He would say, as after saying that, Murayama would say this. Sure then, she would say. As Izuku would say this. Good. Now, as Izuku would start explaining, including how, the student council and the orc club were basically devils, while he is a different, a different being entirely, known as a ghoul. As he would explain how ghouls, eat human flesh, but in this case, he basically lost that ability to basically eat human flesh. As after saying that, and also some other stuff, including how he basically defeated Kokubile, aka the second highest ranking in the Grimoire, aka, the Fallen Angel side, and also a bit of well, about a bit of of the supernatural, he would say this. So, that's it, he would say. As Murayama would say this. So you're saying that you're a part of the supernatural, and wait a minute. If you're saying that, they're devils, then, as he would say this. Yep. That includes Issei, but in my case, I'm also a devil. Or at least a reincarnated one. But because I, injected so many DNA from different types of, species, for example, some members of the Grimoire, which gave me the immunity of any holy item, or any holy phrase, or anything of that sort. Well, I'm basically like a devil, but, with, without the drawbacks, he would say. As she would say this. So, about these, what are they called again? As he would say this. Oh yeah, you mean Sacred Gears? As he would start, summoning out his, gauntlets, including the boots, including his spear. As he would say this. Yeah, this is what is called a Sacred Gear. Sacred Gears are actually made from the gods themselves, or at least the biblical god. From the Bible, he would say. As one of them would say this, specifically Katase. I see. So, Izuku, she would say, as he would say this. As he would start looking at her, as she would say this. Well, I wanted to ask you this, she would say. As she would start coming closer, including, Murayama. Both of them would start looking at Izuku, as he would say this. Yeah, he would say, as Murayama would say this. Well, would you want to... As before they can actually say anything else, we're gonna be leaving this episode right off here. So, yeah. So, I hope you liked the video, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!